'Cause we're friends in ministry. In a real kind of world, I'm glad I got my word.
It's your friends until the end, help endurance to the end. It's the Friends in Ministry podcast. Tell a friend. It's your girl MC Mia, also known as Mariah,
And it's your girl, New Creature, also known as Kamara.
and we are your hosts for the Friends in Ministry podcast. And we thank you for tuning in. What's up, everybody? It's another
What's up?
episode of Friends in Ministry, and I'm your host, MC Mia.
And I am New Creature.
And we have our guest tonight, Shaniqua Zastrow. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. And the topic is still on homosexuality. Hopefully, you guys have tuned into the other episodes, but we are just trying to get to the root of what this looks like in people's personal lives, how they overcame, what struggles they had, and the impact of the church on it. But let's jump right in because, we just get straight to it. Shani, just tell us about who you are. Let the people know.
I'm just Shani. Really, I'm Shani Zastrow. My real name is Shaniqua, but my friends call me Shani, and I got that name when I was in college. And I decided, well, I'm an artist, musician. I love Jesus. I love to worship. I love to praise. But I'm an artist. I have my own business. I am a wife, a mother of two precious babies. And but like I was saying, like the reason why my name is Shani, why I told people to call my name Shani is because when I was in college, that was like my nickname, and so I was like the man on campus, like, and everybody used to call me Shani. So I decided, I was like, well, if I'm gonna give my life to Christ, I want to take that name and give it another meaning, and so that's why I went with Shani Zastrow.
Awesome. Well, it's good to have you. Yeah. So
I already got a question. My brain be rolling. I already got a question just by that introduction. So I hear like two different definitions. When I hear like you was the man, I heard in the street term of like you don't want to go to for drugs,
Oh no,
or you was
no.
like that girl. Like what do you mean by that?
So I guess you could say like I was the one that everybody wanted. Like I thought I was like the cool one. Everybody wanted to hang out with me. Everybody wanted to do stuff with me all the time. So it was just kind of like I was like it's like the popular term, the popular girl. Everybody knew who I was because I was like out there, lit everywhere I went. I went to Virginia State University, which is like it's like I don't need to explain.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was just like I was that person. Everybody knew who Shani was. So yeah.
What year
Okay.
did you go to Virginia State?
I started going there in the fall of 2009.
Okay, you might have been there. My sister did. I think she went. Yeah, she was there when you was anyway. But that's for another conversation. But yeah, Virginia State. Yeah.
So yeah, so that was pretty much it. Does it answer your question? I didn't sell drugs or anything like
Yes,
that.
it does.
No, I didn't. I didn't sell drugs or anything
That
like
would have
that.
been twist of events. Like what?
I know. It's like, where did that come from? I didn't know that. I never mentioned that to nobody.
Right. Right. So did you grow up in the church? Did you grow up knowing the Lord, or how was it introduced?
So it's actually funny because first and foremost, I always tell people like the testimony from the beginning. I was born premature. I weighed 1 pound 9 ounces, and the way that it happened was my mom was about maybe like 7 months pregnant, and she had high blood pressure issues, and she was sick, and she took some medicine that made her blood pressure just go through the roof. So she went to the local hospital in the town, and they couldn't like take her because they didn't have the equipment. And so they tried to call a Nightingale to come and get her, take her to MCV, or it was MCV back then, but I think they call it like VCU now. To take her there, and all the Nightingales was taken. So my grandma always tell me they called this guy. They called the ambulance, and this little guy that was like maybe 4 or 5. He was like really small. Like hopped out of the truck. They put her in the back of the ambulance. And he literally drove from Williamsburg to Richmond in like 10 minutes. And I don't know. That's like 45 minutes away, like driving normally. And so they rushed her to the hospital. And when they got there, my family was there, and they said, either we can save the mom or we can save the baby, but we won't be able to save both. So they had to choose. And my grandma, she grew up in the church, and she was telling them, she was like, "We're gonna pray, and you're gonna save both of them." And lo and behold, they did. So I was born 1 pound 9 ounces. I lost 3 ounces in the hospital. I had to stay in the hospital for 3 months. And so I guess you can call it, is what you call like a miracle baby. But I always tell people my life was kind of built on the foundation of faith, because my grandmother had faith that they could save both of us, which they did. So my grandmother, I grew up in a church that had like 15 members. Okay, it was a small church. It kind of looks like one big room, or like one medium-sized room. Everybody was over the age of 50. It was legit crazy. Like we had like a 5-person choir. They wore robes. They had a out of tune piano. They didn't believe in drums, and so my family had went there. So of course, my parents took me there every Sunday, and I kind of grew up that way. I gave my life to Christ when I was about 13, and the only reason why I gave my life to Christ is because my mom's mom, my grandma, she told me that if I died at the age of 13 and I wasn't saved, then I was going to hell. So I was like, oh snap, I need to get baptized. And so there at the church, I got baptized, and they did like one discipleship class with me. My pastor at the time did one discipleship class with me, because me and my cousin and I got baptized at the same time. And the only scripture that they taught me was John 3:16, and that was it. And they sent me on my merry way. So here I am thinking all my life, like, I'm saved, I'm baptized. So, if I die, then I'm going to heaven, and that's it. Nobody really taught me the true art of discipleship. So I say that I went to church, but I wasn't in the church. I didn't know the reality and the truth about the church. Grew up singing in the choir. But nobody to really teach me, how to live like Christ and what it meant, like that my sins were forgiven, and the Holy Spirit. Like none of that was taught. So I went to church, but I wasn't in the church, I guess you could say.
Wow.
So I want to rewind about 7 minutes ago, and one thing that is mind blowing. No, you good, you good. But one thing that is mind blowing is, I don't know if y'all notice it, but it's like all premature babies be giants. They all
Be
super tall.
giants.
So I've actually met Shani, and of course I'm short because I'm like 5'3", but still she's just like tall. I'm like, I have a cousin that's tall. My husband was premature. I'm like,
I was premature.
you're tall in a sense. So it's like, why is everybody so freaking tall? But I just had to throw that in there. It's just interesting
You
because
think
I
I'm
would have
you think
never
I'm
thought
tall?
that.
You think I'm tall?
Yes.
I'm 5'5", and I think I'm short because my dad is like 6'7", and I was like,
You don't look 5'5".
I'm five.
Maybe
You do
because
not look
different
5'5".
hairstyles, the hair probably adds on a couple of feet,
Maybe.
inches.
I hope. Maybe I just need to wear it like
That is
big more often, because it was gonna make me look taller. So yeah, so that's
Right.
my church testimony right there. So
wow. I mean, I think that's. It seems like that's common. Yep. I gave my life to Christ when I was around 12, 11, 13. Like we were scared, to that altar, or that's when I think when we had like that kid like conscious, like, yo, like this is what we need to do. So at what point? So 13. So would you say around like high school, or when was it introduced, like that you experienced with women, or how did that come about? I guess basically.
well, I always like try to go back to like the root of it, because this is just what like I've been seeking the Lord about for like a long time, because I really want to tell people like the reality. Oh, sorry, that's my drive. The reality of everything. So for me, I grew up in an abusive home. my dad wasn't abusive to me, but he was abusive to my mom. And like senses of like one time their relationship was like really like toxic and rocky. My parents didn't get married until a year after my husband and I got married. So they were together
Wow.
for years. I never knew what my family, people in my family didn't get married. Like that wasn't a thing. Anyway, so
Mm.
I grew up in a household where it was kind of like toxic. Like he would always, threaten my mom with a gun, and like one time I was just really sitting thinking about my life, and I was like, growing up, I never had like a time of like peace. I never had a time of
Mm.
peace. Like I said, when I was a baby, I was premature and I had a lot of issues with that. And then when I was, like 2 or 3, like my parents, they were really in toxic situations. Like my dad, I remember my dad, he even kidnapped me one time because my mom said she was going to leave him. So he kidnapped me one night in the middle of the night from my aunt's house. He came into the house, took me, and then left. And to make her come back, she had to get me back, she had to come back. So it was kind of like she grew up in like she was in a household of like fear or whatever. So, and
Yeah.
then when I was around 5, I ended up losing my brother. He was in Richmond
Mm.
playing basketball, and there was a gang up there. They were leaving the basketball court, and the gang saw the car that they were in, and he thought that he was somebody else. And so it was like maybe 4 of the people in the car, and he was the only one to get shot. And so he, the bullet ended up going through his skull. Of course, he died. And it happened on my mom's birthday. And
Wow.
when she went up there to see him, like she saw him, like with his brains everywhere, like blood everywhere. She
Mm.
saw that, and I used to be so resentful for my mom because I always felt like I think my mom didn't want me, growing up. And then I realized after losing my own son that it wasn't that my mom didn't want me or have a relationship with me. She just wasn't able to be a mom for me growing up because she went through all that trauma. She was going through that trauma herself. And it wasn't until I
Mm.
grew up until I realized that. Anyways, I don't know. Okay, why am I going here? Um,
No, you're good. We flow.
so like that happened, and then I have a half sister. Well, my brother is my half brother on my mom's side. They have different moms and dads. And on my dad's side, I have a sister who she never cared for me. We're 10 years apart. She never really cared for me because she felt like my dad was there in my life growing up, but not in her life.
Right.
And so she had that resentment towards me. And I was like, dang, if she only knew what we was going through in this house, she wouldn't be so mad. But so that was kind of my life. Elementary school, I was bullied a lot. Um, I was bullied through middle school.
You
I
was
was
bullied?
bullied, yeah. I was bullied through elementary
Why?
school. I have no
I
idea.
mean, saying like, what did they talk about? Like, no, I'm sorry.
She's like, why?
That they used to just call me. They used to because like people used to tease me because I have a deeper voice. Um, they used to
I've
say
heard deeper.
they used to say I was ugly. I honestly think now it's because they were probably like super insecure or something like that, and they just who knows? I'm understanding that people who don't like you for no reason, it's them. It's not you. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, yeah.
but but when you're
Yeah.
but when you're a kid, you don't know that. You just think, oh my God, these people don't like me. What they're saying about me must be true. Anyways, that was that. I was bullied a lot all the way up until my freshman year in high school, and I realized that when I started having same sex attraction was when I began to like hate my dad because of what he did to my mom. And I was like, yeah, I never want to be
Mm.
I never want to be in a relationship like that. So I kind of became him. I slowly became my dad. I wasn't attracted. I didn't want to be in a relationship with the male because I was like, this is what it's like. I never had a picture of marriage or a healthy marriage. I never had a picture of a healthy relationship because I didn't grow up seeing that. I was exposed to like sex at an early age. Like, cause like I said, my parents had both checked out because of the stuff that they was going through, so they didn't really care about what I was watching, what I was doing. Um, I used to watch, like, stay up late at night and watch like pornography on TV at like
Yeah.
7, 8 years old. And so, you know, I was
Yeah.
exposed early. And so freshman year, I I had started to like hang out with like people that were seniors, juniors, because I was much mature, like I was like much more
Yep.
mature or whatever. And so people used to think that that was cool. You know, people used to think, oh yeah, okay, so Shani, yeah, I know her, she was cool. And I did everything. I was a people pleaser. Like I did everything to make everybody feel good because, you know, I wanted everybody to like me. You know what I'm saying? I wanted
Yeah.
everybody, this was a new start. I wasn't in elementary school no more. I wasn't in middle school no more. I was in high school. So I started to change who I was so that I could be
Mm.
accepted. And I had a boyfriend at the time when I was in high school, and it was like really like rocky because we were like good friends. And I found out that he was talking to somebody else. I guess I think that's what it was. Was that it? I found out he was talking to somebody else, and so I was like, yeah, that was it. I'm done with this whole situation. And there was this girl, my senior year, and she used to like pick with me, not pick on me, but pick with me. And she was gay. She was a stud, and she used to like pick with me, like show me a lot of attention, like a lot of attention, like write me notes every. This was back then when people was writing notes, you know,
Right. Right.
passing you notes
Yeah.
in the hallway. You know, they used to fold them up like real cute and give it to you. You know what I'm saying? And so it was like that type of situation. So of
That was
course,
pretty exciting to get notes too. It's like, oh
facts,
snap, I got a note.
facts, so writing
Don't
Right.
notes
let it
back and
slip in your
forth,
locker.
facts. And so that, you know, I wasn't getting any like attention that I really wanted from like anybody else. So, you know, I was drawn to that. And I think when I had my first like sexual encounter, like I never thought that it would happen, if that makes sense.
Right.
But it did. And I was like, this is happening. This is a thing. And then, you know, once you get like hooked on that, it's like, okay, that's it. That's it. And one of my,
So we're gonna need to rewind real quick because you hop from
I'm sorry.
passing note to you went to bed. First, we lost right now. That was super fast. So are you saying like the person that showed you attention is who you end up like being in a relationship with, or like a
Oh
one night
yeah.
stand? Like how?
Oh, no,
Okay,
it
because
was a
you left the
relationship.
audience hanging.
I'm sorry. No, it was an actual like I was a freshman in high school. So it was like maybe 3 or 4 months or whatever. Um, yeah, it was like 3 or 4 months, and it was like a typical high school relationship. You know, not long,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't dating her for like years. Um, but I
So like, what happened? Like, okay, she's showing you attention and stuff like that,
mhm.
and did she invite you over to her place? Like, what?
Oh,
Like,
so
yeah,
we communicated. Do you guys remember AIM? AOL? Remember AIM?
Yep.
yes,
Like low
yep,
key, like this was like MySpace kind of like MySpace era was
yeah,
like kind of at the top, but it was like going into like Facebook time, you know. And so
hmm,
like we would talk a lot, like on the phone, we would talk a lot on, you know, AOL Messenger or whatever. And so this was like giving me attention because I wasn't like really getting it from nowhere else. And so yeah, that's we just was talking a lot, you know, hanging out a lot, and then next thing you know, it was like, oh, this is happening. This is a thing. Like I'm doing this. And so yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So yeah.
So was that the only that was after that? Like, you said it didn't last long. So, like, between you and her, or was it like one and done, or was it a continuous thing? And then did something happen, or did you start feeling like this was wrong in any way, or what? Did any thoughts come up
Did
like
it
what am
pretty
I
much did
doing?
it make you want to go deeper, or did it make you want to be like, I don't want to do that ever again?
Mm, I don't think I well, I didn't really have like a conscience for it because, you know, it was like it is what it is. If it like the relationship, I think how it ended was, if I remember, this was a long time ago. If I remember, I found out that she was like talking to somebody else, and so we ended up breaking up. I think that's what it was, or stopped talking. We ended up stop messing around with each other because we wasn't really dating. It was just turnout situation. Do people still use that word? Turn you out? I don't know, but
Not
regardless.
really. I don't think so.
Don't worry, I'll be out of date with stuff too.
So so that was.
So again, so that now you have two people who um, basically misuse your trust. Like now you have two people that planted the seed of rejection on you. Like it was the boyfriend, and then this girl who just started talking to somebody else. Like, how did that make you feel? Like,
Oh, I think that rejection kind of turned me into like, kind of transformed me into like this person that it's like I can't. Sometimes I'd be like, yo, I can't believe I was this person. Like I was like really big into like horoscope. Like I always, my birthday was in November, so that was like the thing. Like I'm a Scorpio, like quote unquote. I don't believe in horoscope now,
yeah,
but back then I was like, I'm a Scorpio. I am about to like take this by the handles because people were like doing this to me. So I was like, well, maybe I should become that person so I can avoid getting hurt. And
mm,
so after I stopped talking to her, the next person that I started talking to was like one of my first like long-term relationships. And I was like 16, 17. This person was like 21, 22. She was 21. She was in college. She was grown. She had her own, like she was grown. But I was like a mature. I never forget. It was that summer after I graduated from high school, and was it? No, was it? No, it wasn't after I graduated from high school. It was like the year before, and I met her at a party, and we were all just like dancing and stuff like that. And she was like real like aggressive, and I think I liked real aggressive at this point. And that was like my like long term relationship. This is when in my mind I was like, oh, I'm gonna be with somebody like forever. Like this, I'm gonna be with a female forever. I want it to be my lifestyle. That's when I started like wanting it to be like, like I wanted to be married. I wanted to,
right.
do spend Christmas and all this stuff. Like it became like that during that time, during that relationship. So yeah.
Why do you think you was attracted to that she was so aggressive? Like, or it just was one of those things?
Because I'm naturally aggressive person. Like even like when it comes to like even now, but not in like a bad way, but like I'm aggressive when it comes to like chasing my goals and doing what I'm supposed to do and like so I was naturally I guess like attracted to that I guess.
Yeah,
So yeah.
oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so
So I've seen your picture that you use for your testimony, and I think we may actually like post that um in this clip somewhere because you look super demonic. Like you look straight evil. And so it made me think about that when you was talking about how you was dabbling into like horoscope, which is basically like witchcraft. Because you in a sense, you did look like a witch in that picture. It's like the creepiest thing.
You look totally
Um
different. You look totally
right.
different. Like the
And that's
transformation
one
is
thing
real.
that a lot of
Like,
a lot of other people have talked about was trying to take hold of their life, get that power back.
mm-hmm.
Like you took this from me, so now I'm about to do this to everybody else because I don't like it in a sense. So that's what I had like I thought about. Was in a sense like you wasn't like straight out like I'm going to cast a spell. No, nothing like that. But
no,
with the whole thing of like I'm going to take control back over my life. I'm not gonna allow nobody to hurt me. I'm going to, in a sense, you're still trying to use some type of control, manipulation, and become this other person, so that way nobody can hurt you. It's just like, yeah, you like straight evil.
Oh yeah, it was that type of situation because I think I was guarding myself and I think I had like maybe 4 or 5 I think girlfriends throughout the time of my like life. Some of them was like short term, some of them was long term, some of them was just like kind of like a fling, like just those type of things because I was in the mindset of like this is my life and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what Shani wants to do, and then it didn't help that people like were like attracted to me. You know what I'm saying? People were attracted to me, and I was attracted to that attraction. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
it was just, it was a thing. And I was kind of like in a place where I didn't really like care in a sense. I was like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. And that was it. Like I was smoking, I was drinking. Like I said, like people thought I was like, I became like the man. Like I was the man. Like I was the one like that people wanted to talk to. People wanted to, see what I was about. You know what I'm saying? It was just those type of things, and that did. I think that did something like to me, mentally. Um,
Mm.
I was. I don't think that I was. Like I wasn't like deep into like horoscope, but I did believe in my like sign, I guess, like what they say about my sign, because that's what I wanted to like base my life off of, I guess, if it's what you
Mhm.
want to say. So yeah, that
So did your parents or your praying grandmother, no, did they have any idea about this?
no, they did not. You know why? Because I was really like sneaky. Like my parents
I was
didn't.
about to say you were you
My
were like
my parents did not know at all. They didn't know. They didn't know. They didn't know I was drinking. They didn't know I was smoking. They didn't know anything because I was like putting like I was really good at putting on like this front, like, hey, mom, that. But then I was
Mhm.
really this person living this like double life, and they didn't know because I didn't at this point at
Man.
the time I didn't feel like comfortable telling them that, you know what I'm saying? So if they didn't know, I mean, and then like I said, they weren't really too concerned about it because they had their own stuff that they had been dealing with for years, and they are
Right.
still kind of like dealing with it, so yeah.
Man. So basically, like
Wow.
a recap, you barely made it into the world, but by the grace of God, you showed up, showed out, and um, is alive and everything. Then you go through, trauma, rejection. Of course, perversion is planted from at a young age. Um, all that stuff is molding you to, in a sense, like planting that seed of just of I want to say like discord, but just like of just messiness in a sense.
Yeah.
And so to finally meet somebody just like, wow, you showing me attention and everything, like it feels great. Let's just be real. It feels super great. Like, wow. So you must care about me. When we don't really
Right.
know what true care really means or what true love really means, stuff like that. So we walk around in lust and everything, um, thinking people care and they really don't. But then, you get hurt after that and you're just like, all right, I'm about to do my own thing. I'm about to just turn up, do whatever I want to do. So at this point, or even a little bit later on, what was the starting pivotal shift where it's just like, this isn't what I thought it was.
Oh, girl. Um, I was at Virginia State, and one of the things I really wanted to do is I wanted to pledge. I wanted to pledge my sophomore year, I think, or whatever. And I was friends with this girl who kind of like set me up in a sense, like because she wanted to pledge too, so she kind of set me up. So it was like this whole thing, like with like I really felt like she betrayed me in a sense, and it wasn't until later on, a couple of years after I've been saved, that God let me know, like, sororities and fraternities, they aren't of God, and that is the reason why, I didn't let you do that then. But during the time, it felt like betrayal.
Mm.
I didn't understand like God using it for my good. You know what I'm saying? Like that. So
Mm.
at the time, it was betrayal, and that kind of brought on like that. I feel like that was the seed that started because I used to suffer with schizophrenia.
Mm.
So I after that, I believed that everybody was out to get me. I believed that I was like blacklisted from joining anything, from doing anything. Like I believe people were breaking into my dorm room. People like it was like crazy, and
So were you at a point where you're hearing like voices and stuff like that, or
I wasn't hearing voices, but I just believed I couldn't trust the people that were around me, if that made sense. I
yeah,
believed that
Mm.
everybody had like this motive, like,
yeah,
out to get me or whatever. And so that was my sophomore year. It was so bad that I transferred. I ended up transferring to VCU, which is like 45 minutes, 30, 45 minutes from Virginia State. I got my own apartment. And at the time, I was dating this girl who she used to go to state, but then she was coming back and forth to see me. And so we were in a relationship. And We used to smoke a lot. We used to drink a lot, and we used to party a lot. I used to go to the club a lot, and it started to turn like abusive because she was real like jealous, and I was real jealous, and we was both crazy, and so it began to be like abusive. I remember I used to live in Richmond. There was these high rise apartments. I used to live there because I couldn't get on campus, and it was like maybe 20 stories up high. Matter of fact, this is like random, but I used to live there when they had that earthquake in Virginia. Do y'all remember that?
Oh
Remember the earthquake?
yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
I was on the 10th floor, girl, sleeping in bed, was shaking. I was like, yo, this whole building about to fall over. But anyways, I remember I was on the 10th floor and I had this puppy that I loved. Oh my God, I loved him so much. And we were arguing one night. She took him by the neck and was holding him over the balcony, they were like threatening to drop him. And I was like begging her, like, please don't do this because this is my dog. Like it was like type of stuff like that. Like she drove her car down like the hill, like down going towards the water. Like it was crazy. Like one time, and then like I think it was like the last time, um, she was trying to get into my apartment or whatever, and she got in and she just started thrashing everything in my apartment. Every time we would argue, she would just like break stuff, like TVs and tables and chairs. And I used to live in like a studio, so it was like this one space that was just all thrashed, and it was
Wow,
like we would fight, argue, scratches, bruises, all that
that's
stuff.
crazy.
And I never forget, there was this one girl that lived on the fourth floor, and her name was Princess. And one day, we met each other, and she was real cool, like real inviting. And she used to invite me to her house and stuff like that. We were like really good friends. And one day, she had something in her apartment, and her family came over, and it was her dad and her mom and her like cousins and stuff, and they were all just so like welcoming and inviting. And I was like, yo, I miss my family. I was like, I really miss my family. And it kind of like gave me this desire to like move back home, like with my people. And I eventually did move back home. I was still in this like partial relationship with this girl. Um, and then this is like the part where I kind of like gave my life to Christ because, I had been around all these people that was pouring all this love into me. And I think they were Christians too. And it was one night, I never forget, it was in March, the end of March. And I was going up to go see my girlfriend because she lived in Petersburg at the time, where Virginia State is. And I had my dog with me, AP. That's what his name. His name was AP. Had my dog with me, and I went to. I was meeting with this girl to go get high before I went up to Petersburg. And I tried to go on to where she was, but they didn't allow dogs at the timeshare that I was trying to get into. So I was just so frustrated because I was like, all my plans are getting like crazy. And like, mind you, I was suffering with schizophrenia. I was drinking a lot. I was smoking a lot. And like, when I tell you I used to drink a lot, like we used to take shots. Like we used to go through bottles of Bacardi 151. Do you know what that is, Bacardi 151? It's like gas, literally like gasoline.
No, I don't.
Good. They don't make it no more because that's how bad it is. It's
Oh wow.
151 proof alcohol. We used to take shots of that every day, and chase it with like wine. That's how bad it used to be.
Wow.
In my apartment, I had a homemade what's it called? Oh, I can't think of what it's called, but it's like you make it out of this. Oh, I can't think of what it's called. It was like you take this like a big bottle, you cut it in half, and then you put like a hole in the top, and then you put like weed in it at the top, and then you pull it up, and then like all the I don't know, it's like a homemade bong or something. I used to have one of those in my apartment, like just on the side of the bed, ready any and every time. Like I was doing this stuff, I was smoking and I was drinking because I had schizophrenia, and I was trying to like keep the like that from like the thoughts. I don't think I was hearing voices, but I was having like thoughts of like crazy things, and like when I was smoking and drinking, it would go away. So that's why I did it so much.
Wow.
And
That's
so
deception.
yeah, and it wasn't until this night I was frustrated, and I was in Williamsburg at my parents' house, and I went to like I was going to go meet this girl to go get high, and I wanted to bring my dog with me, but they didn't allow dogs, so I had to take the dog back home. My mom didn't want to keep the dog, so I had to figure out what I was going to do with the dog. She let me keep it there, and I went back. We got high, and we were drinking a little bit, and I couldn't. It was like I got high and I got drunk a little bit, but I was still hearing the voices. Like the voices were like coming through, like the thoughts were coming through, and so I was like, it's not working. Like no matter how much I was smoking, how much I was drinking, it wasn't working this time like it normally did. And so it was like just overwhelming. I can't even tell you what I was thinking, but I just remember feeling so heavy and so just like attacked. I don't know what it was, but I went back home and I went into my parents' bedroom. I mean, I went into my parents' bathroom, locked the door, and I sat down on the floor and I was like, I'm going to take my life. Because it was like everything that I was like running from, like all the thoughts, the schizophrenia, the betrayal, all that stuff, like it just came crashing down at one time. And
Mm.
when it came crashing down, I couldn't carry that because it was just so much. And I'm not even talking about like the last couple of months of my life. I'm talking about like my whole entire life, from like my brother's murder or like just the hatred in my family and all sorts of stuff. And so when that happened, I was like, I'm taking my life. I was in the bathroom trying to figure out how I was going to take my life. And I promise you, I always tell people this, in that moment, I sat down with my back against like the tub. I sat down and it was like this overwhelming feeling just like came over me. Like it was crazy, and it's like it literally lifted like that heaviness off of me, like right on time. And I was like crying, snotting and everything. And I knew it was God. Didn't know too much about Jesus, didn't know too much about, you know, all the names and the Holy Spirit and stuff, but I knew about God. And I said, God, if you give me my life back, I promise I will live for you. And that's when I gave my life to Christ during that time, because sister was going
So
through it.
Man.
it was no pastor in your bathroom that led you to
There
Christ.
was no pastor in my bathroom.
Your grandma didn't come busting through the door with
The
the
altar
oil.
call.
No, no, it was none of that. It was in the bathroom with the door locked by myself when I experienced Jesus for myself.
Man.
Wow, I
And
would not have even known that you look like you wouldn't kill a fly. You look like you would never sip anything anything.
yeah, no, I started drinking. Like my daddy used to have a bar in the house, and we used to drink alcohol at like 12, 13, like stick to alcohol and
Mhm.
then fill it up with like water or something. They didn't know, they didn't care at the time. And so it was just like, doing all this thing. And I think I learned to become sneaky, doing all that stuff. And so I just kind of, kept with me. So people looked at me and they were like, oh, that's such a nice, sweet girl. She's in college. She's making good grades. She is doing all the things right, making her parents proud. Meanwhile, I'm in college,
Man.
didn't go to school the whole last semester. I just signed up for
I'm about to say,
classes.
yeah, I didn't hear not one time like when I was in
Mm-mm.
class and she texted me.
No,
I didn't
no,
hear.
Right.
no. I signed up my last year at VCU. I signed up for classes just so I can get financial aid for money for my apartment. I didn't go to class.
That's
I
what a
think I,
lot of people do.
Yeah.
that's what I did, and I was living life, girl, just doing what I wanted to do. Like it was really bad. So, yeah.
Man.
Wow. So, okay, gave your life. Said I'm gonna live for you in the bathroom. You know, how did that process go with the girls that you was, or girls or girl you was attached to? What happened with that? Like,
I,
did you still try to go back and talk to her, and or like was it abrupt? Like,
it was
do
abrupt.
you remember?
It was abrupt. Like I stopped. Like that after that day, I stopped talking to her. I think I stopped talking. Yeah, I did. I stopped talking to her after that night.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't stop smoking and I didn't stop drinking. That was something that was really hard for me to do. Like God had to really like work on me with that. Like he had to show me, like, cause I'm kind of hard headed. So a lot of times when when God want me to stop doing something, he got to be like rough with me. You know what I'm saying? Not like rough, like a hard, harsh father, but
No,
sometimes
no, no. Like that. Yeah, I know what you mean.
he
That
has
tough love. That. All right now.
like you got to get it together. I was still after I got my life to Christ, I was still drinking, still smoking. I think the way I stopped smoking was when I had a dream one night. I had weed in my I had a dream that I had weed in my car and I got pulled over by the police and got arrested. But the crazy thing was is that like during this time, like I used to get caught like slightly. Like one time, my aunt, like she came to my house when I was smoking weed in the house, and she was like smelling stuff. And my aunt was saved. My aunt was saved. She's saved, okay. And she's from Arizona. And she came to visit one time, and she just came to hang out with me. And I was in that room getting, high. I didn't know she was coming over, so she came over and she smelled the weed, and I could just kind of tell that she knew I was smoking weed. And then one time my mom found like the guts of a blunt in her car. I had put it in a plastic bag and it was so high I forgot to take it out. She found it and she came to the house and threw it at me. I'm like, bro, I gotta stop this. And so
Man.
I stopped smoking weed. How I stopped drinking. Oh, the crazy thing was how I stopped drinking because I told God I was gonna stop drinking. Then one night I went out with my cousin and I got a drink. I was like, I'm just getting one drink. Like this is one drink. I'm not drinking like the whole bottle. And then the next morning, right, I got up and I was watching SpongeBob on my SpongeBob was on the TV, and I was watching SpongeBob and I was laying in bed and like all of a sudden my TV randomly changed to news channel like 3, and they had like this 30-second news bit of how women who drink in their early years have a hard time getting pregnant when they're older.
Wow.
I was like, yo, this is nuts. And after that, I did not drink. I didn't drink after that.
Wow.
So he has to do the extreme
Yeah,
for you.
yeah, yeah. And
I don't think that's a good thing.
it's getting better. It's getting better, but you know,
That's kind
Wow.
of
I love
creepy.
it. I love the transparency though. I love how like because we reference him as God and Father, like in this season, like just learning the Father part of, because we know him as God, we reference him as God, like we recognize and respect his holiness, but to begin to see him as Father, like it seems like when you can get to that point with a relationship where you see him as Dad, it is it's a difference, and so just like a parent will kind of work their child like, listen, I love you so much, like, but you got to stop this, like, how they still are there, they don't just give up on them and stuff like that. So to be able to see that he took you in as daughter, like just how you talk about him, your relationship is just like, yeah, he has to really like shake me up. And it's funny because when we talk to different people, um, so it didn't seem like homosexuality was a stronghold for you, because like we were talking to some of the other guests, and how the other things they quickly can get, like God took it instantly, like the drinking and smoking for them, but the homosexuality was a stronghold, or God took something else, and something else was a stronghold. And we were talking about how a lot of times we will brag about the things that, like, yeah, I used to be an alcoholic, I'm clean 30 years ago, but God took it off instantly. But we won't share the part that we're struggling with. And so it's like, did you give God your lying? Did you give God, the gossiping? Did you give God this? So it was just good to hear like different people's testimonies of the things that quickly went, and the things that he had. It was a process.
yeah,
Right, because it sounds like the weed and the drinking was what was a lot harder. Like you said, it was a lot harder for you to let go of. So when it came to temptation, when it regards to of the same sex, was that like an
Yeah.
immediate like gone, or okay, they're pretty, I'm not going to do that and keep it moving? Like what was that process with God with you?
honestly, I think because like I had went through so much with as far as like relationship wise, I always tell people like maybe I went searching thinking that it wasn't going to be like how my mom and my dad were. Maybe it was going to be different because I was the like the aggressor sometimes. And then I think in the end, I just realized that, it's the same. Like, you can get beat up by a boy, you can get beat up by a girl, you can get cheated on by a boy, you can get cheated on by a girl. And I think for me, I was just done with relationships in a sense. I wasn't dating. I hadn't dated a guy since I was like in ninth grade. When I had my last boyfriend, and I didn't stop talking to females until like 2012. I, was it 2012? I don't even remember. I think it was. I think it was 2012. So it was a short-lived time, but and I think I was like, I'm just done with relationships.
So you don't have any temptations of when it comes to women, because you know how females, we tend to be a little bit on the closer side, like hanging out, stuff like that. There was no like temptation or thoughts that came after that point, after you gave it right to Christ or anything like that.
Oh, I think so. Like, I feel like everybody, when they have anything, it could be anything. I think when they get the thought of it, like, everybody gets the thought of it at times. You know what I'm saying? But one of the things that God had to like really like deal with me about is, we as believers, and I always tell people this, we as believers, the enemy has no legal access into our lives. None. None whatsoever. Unless we give it to him. And when we give legal access to the enemy, when we open that door, when we open that gate for the enemy to come in, that's when he begins to cause, havoc in our lives. And not only will he cause havoc in our lives in this area, but he's bringing like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 friends that's going to come along and wreak havoc, like in your finances or in your marriage or in your job or your health. And that's how he operates. And so, the Bible says that we have to take these imaginations and we have to cast them down and we have to come against them with the word of God. Because if not, that thought, it can plant a seed, and then that seed can grow. And that's how, things become havoc in our lives, when we give the enemy open access into our lives. And so I think I'm just at a point now with everything that has transpired, even in my like saved years, as far as like losing babies and stuff like that, and the mistakes that I've made. Like, I'm learning, like, just I'm learning who I am and where I am in Christ, and how to be, equipped for this whole like spiritual battle. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can go in like a store one day, and I can see a pretty girl, and you know what I'm saying, I can say, she's really pretty. But it's like, when I begin to like think and like dwell on it, is when it becomes like an issue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or like, if I go to the movies and I'm wanting to go see Creed, and I see Michael B. Jordan, and I'm like, oh, he's really cute. And when you really think, you dwell on it and you thinking about it, it's like, okay, I got to get it together, because I know like the
Yeah.
enemy is trying to plant the seed. You know what I'm saying? This
Yeah.
is how it works. Like, and then 2 weeks
Yeah.
later, I go to the mall and I see this guy that kind of looked like Michael B. Jordan, and it's like, ooh, okay,
Yep. Yep. And he say hello. Like, oh my
it's
goodness.
like, yeah, no,
You're right. You're
no,
right. So thank
no.
you for bringing that, you know, back around. Like, so if was there anybody? I know you said that these people that just showed you love, that made you miss home. You believe they were Christians, but would you say like that? What was a big impact? Just how genuine they were, like how they just show love to you
Oh yeah,
and helped.
I am a big believer in family. I'm a big believer in having the ministry is like, it's like you have God, and then you have your husband and wife, and you have your kids, and then you have ministry. Like, I believe that God didn't allow that order, you know what I'm saying, for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So seeing that husband and seeing that wife, and like them together pouring that love into me, like, I feel like that was enough, like, to change me, because I knew I was missing something, and they had let me have a taste of like what I was missing. And I know they were praying for me. I know that they were just being genuinely nice and kind. They didn't care about how I looked or what I did, or it was just that genuine love that kind of like made me like, you know, something in my life needs to change. I'm missing
Yeah.
something in my life.
Right.
And I'm not saying that
Man.
I wasn't missing like my mom or my dad or a relationship. I was missing like something in my heart. There was a void in my heart. That's what they're seeing, experiencing, that made me realize that I was missing something in my heart. Like a void was there and it needed to be filled. So I don't know if that made sense or not.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. But we are running out of time. But I do have one last question before we end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if somebody's out there and they are part of that lifestyle where they've been through similar shoes as you, so basically, if you could talk to the old you, or and somebody that's in those same shoes, what exactly would you say to them?
Well, I would say that when people say, I'm born this way, like I was born gay, or I was born a lesbian, or born, I'm supposed to be like this new thing is I'm a man in a woman's body, something like that. When I hear people say that, the first thought that comes in my mind, well, if you believe that you're born that way, then you need to be born again. Because the Bible says that you must be born again. And people like to hit you with that, oh, I was born this way. One thing that I would tell myself, if I could go to myself and tell myself, like the person that I would tell them that nobody can do what you were born to do. And I would tell myself, I know that you went through a lot of things, and a lot of things that you have experienced has really like transformed and tainted your mind, and how you think things are supposed to work, and what you've accepted from people, and pleasing people and whatnot. But all in all, no matter who you are, I wanted you to know that you are loved by the Most High God. And it's crazy because there's 7 billion people in the world, and God took his time to make you with a purpose that only you can fulfill. And God has so many great things for you. He has such an amazing path for you, things that you can't even imagine God has for you. All he needs is your yes. All he needs is to transform your life, no matter how impossible it may seem to transform you from homosexual, from drug addict to alcoholic to clean and holy and righteous. No matter how impossible it may seem, God does the impossible in his own way and in his own time. So that's what I was saying.
Man, that was great.
I felt that. I felt that. I felt that for real.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
No, for real. 700 million people, and he took his time with me. It hit my heartstring right there. If hearts have strings, anyway. Uh, it's been great. It's been great. Thank you so much for sharing that testimony. Like I'm still shocked. I mean, I know you're not supposed to. I mean, I'm shocked, but that makes sense. I know. That makes sense. That we were all born this way. It says we were born into sin and shaped into iniquity. So what you were saying is true, and what Shani reminded us is that we do need to be born again and to experience the kingdom of heaven. And the Lord waits, for you, but let you know there's not much time because we don't know the day or the hour when He will return, and we don't want it to be too late for you. But so if you're hearing this and this is like tugging at you, and you, like Shani said, she didn't know all the words and who was, and like I just know that this was God. Um, then maybe it's time for you to say yes. And you don't need a pastor or your grandmother with oil busting down the door to do that. All you have to do is simply
Some people might need
ask
that.
God. Some people might, down the line. I'm just saying for the beginning, right where you are. He can meet you right where you are. And so, anyway, we just want to say thank you for your time, and for those who are listening.
Right.
This is another episode of Friends in Ministry, and until next time, bye.